Morning, everybody. Massachusetts Attorney General Martha Coakley. With me this morning, starting from my right, is Detective Lieutenant Robert Irwin of the State Police, assigned to the Attorney General's office. Next to him is Division Chief Nat Yeager of the Medicaid Fraud Division. To my left is Tim St. Laurent, who's the head of our investigations in that division, Medicaid Fraud. And to my right is Assistant Special Agent in charge of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office of the Inspector General, Phil Coyne, and I want to particularly thank Special Agent Coyne for his and his office's assistance in this investigation ongoing. We're here today to announce 118 criminal indictments against 10 different defendants in connection with 4 individual cases of Medicaid fraud. Fraud by providers of, by companies who are providers of health care services who've contracted with the state, and particularly to provide for Medicaid services to people in Massachusetts through Mass Health. These cases highlight a particularly troubling set of allegations about fraud against taxpayers specifically, including the billing for state services well beyond services that were actually performed or not performed at all. In one of the cases that we've brought indictments on, we allege the company billed the state for services when we later found that the patients actually were deceased. We also uncovered a widespread kickback scheme involving sober homes throughout the Commonwealth. And in total today, we allege that the 4 cases resulted in the theft of at least $10 million to taxpayers' fund. We believe that wrongfully went into the pockets of the providers. Of those 10 defendants, 2 have been recently arrested. Those arraignments will be shortly today, one in Framingham and one in Boston. And I want to just briefly put these allegations in context and then address the individual Medicaid schemes that are alleged by today's indictments. First of all, Medicaid is one of the single largest budget items for the Commonwealth. It continues to be one of the costs involved with healthcare, and it's one of the reasons why when I came in 2007, as well as other initiatives that we've taken to address healthcare cost containment, we have stressed the importance of investigating and prosecuting both civil and criminal cases where we allege that taxpayer dollars are being used inappropriately. Every one of those dollars for healthcare should be going to our most vulnerable in Massachusetts who need the care that we provide for them. Since 2007, we've recovered more than $190 million back for taxpayers through Medicaid fraud cases. We also have looked at fraud and programmatic fraud by providers in theft cases, as we allege today, and that is why this increased enforcement is particularly necessary. In the past 3 years, we've sought indictments in 13 Medicaid fraud cases. Today alone, with these additional 4 cases, we seek another 118 indictments. We will continue to address the wide-ranging issues of healthcare cost containment as well as the theft of taxpayer dollars from Medicaid fraud when the facts and law support it. And we will investigate and charge activity by providers that appears to be systemic theft. I note in addressing this, obviously, that these defendants are innocent until proven guilty. They are indictments only. The charges today address 4 different schemes. The first is several charges against a company called AdLife Healthcare of Framingham. Yesterday, a special statewide grand jury returned indictments against Sharon Richardson of Framingham and her company, AdLife. Indictments were also brought against 2 additional AdLife employees. These defendants are charged in connection with the fraudulent billing of Medicaid monies from Mass Health, approximately $5.5 million, money that was intended to be used for the urgent care of some of our most vulnerable citizens. Those charges against Sharon Richardson include Medicaid false claims, 5 counts, larceny over $250, 2 counts, conspiracy, 2 counts, and she was arrested yesterday afternoon in Framingham. The company itself is charged with Medicaid false claims, 6 counts, and larceny over $250. The allegations are that this company, owned by Sharon Richardson, with a main office in Framingham, as well as offices in West Springfield, Dorchester, and Hyannis, provides group adult foster care services for MassHealth. Let me say why that's really important. We have a number of individuals, either disabled or elderly or others, who, although they do not need full-time residential care or assisted living, do need assistance with personal services, whether it's eating or bathing. They can stay in their homes with the kind of services that MassHealth provides, up to $40 a day reimbursement. And it does save costs, enormous costs for the Commonwealth, because those individuals then can stay as long as possible in their home settings, which in many cases is often preferred by the consumers. These are bridge services. And what we found in this instance, however, that almost without exception, Sharon Richardson's company, AdLife, billed MassHealth as if they provided services to these patients all day and every day. We found that AdLife also billed MassHealth for services that they never ever rendered, including care for patients that we later found were deceased. We believe that this scheme was systematic, that it was widespread, and in all we allege that it resulted in the theft of approximately $5.5 million in taxpayer funds. The second scheme we allege by today's indictment is against Preventive Medicine Associates. You may recall that last week, Dr. Punyamurtola Kishore was arrested in connection with an alleged kickback scheme with One Sober House. He was charged with that. Yesterday's grand jury returned several other indictments, which include the charge for which he was arrested, but additional charges. And the allegations allege kickback schemes with 8 sober houses and the fraudulent billing of MassHealth of $5.8 million. That scheme, as we have outlined, involved billing MassHealth for drug and urine screens, often at the amount of $100 to $200 each, for screens that were either unnecessary or never completed. There are 3 other individuals in this scheme who also have been charged with receiving Medicaid kickbacks. In other words, we allege that Dr. Kishore owns and operates 29 Preventive Medicine Associates branches throughout the Commonwealth. We allege that he orchestrated a criminal kickback scheme to have 8 sober houses and to send their patients to his labs to perform this drug screen testing work. We further allege that he faked the level of treatment that was required and was provided for individuals for tens of thousands of drug or alcohol addicted MassHealth patients. We allege a fraudulent extensive scheme to funnel the business to his labs, and that the criminal enterprise ultimately resulted in $3.5 million in taxpayer-funded testing. The third set of indictments relate to an individual named David Benson and Mitchell Counseling Services. A Bristol County grand jury yesterday returned indictments against David Mitchell Benson and Mitchell Counseling Services of New Bedford. He is a licensed social worker. He provides psychotherapy services for Medicaid and for Medicare patients. Through our investigation, we allege that Benson routinely billed MassHealth for treatments that exceeded the services that he actually provided for patients, for 5 patients in total. We allege that he billed the Commonwealth as though the patients were in need of acute care multiple times each week, when actually we believe his patients received either minimal or no therapy at all. In this case, we believe the total amount fraudulently billed was in excess of $160,000. David Benson and his counseling service are each charged with larceny over $250,000, 12 counts of that, and Medicaid false claims, 6 counts. And the fourth and final scheme that we announced today involves Carolyn Wetterberg and Pondview. Carolyn Wetterberg is the sole owner of the Pondview Nursing Home Facility in Jamaica Plain. In June 2008, Pondview was shut down by the Department of Public Health due to the poor quality of care that was provided to its patients. At that time, we began an investigation into Pondview and the owner's use of something called management minute questionnaires for patients. Let me explain the ways in which reimbursement would work for that institution, as in many other institutions, was based upon the information provided as to the level of care that inpatients would need and would be required for. They demonstrate the level of care. They are given a grade, and it is on that basis, on that data, that Mass Health then provides the reimbursement for those services that are provided. The more care a patient needed, the higher the score and higher reimbursement rate provided by Mass Health. We allege in these indictments that between 2003 and 2008, Wetterberg orchestrated a criminal scheme to intentionally inflate those questionnaires and therefore the scores on those questionnaires so that she would, on a systematic basis, receive a higher rate of reimbursement from taxpayers. Specifically, we found in our investigation that when Pondview residents arrived at other facilities, particularly after it was closed, those scores that they had were dramatically dropped. And by way of example, residents that were claimed by Carolyn Wetterberg to be in need of assistance walking, in other words, getting a higher score, more reimbursement, were walking independently when they were moved out of that situation. Residents claimed by Wetterberg on the questionnaire to be in need of assistance eating could eat independently. We do not believe that there were miracles performed after those patients left that nursing home. And we allege that the defendant used this scheme to defraud Mass Health of approximately $600,000 for services not provided. She is charged with 12 counts of Medicaid false claims and larceny by false pretense. Today, these are 4 criminal cases that allege separate but very serious violations of public trust by private healthcare providers in Massachusetts. We're going to continue to aggressively pursue both civil recoveries for taxpayers and, when appropriate, as facts alleged mean criminal responsibility, we will do that. I want to note specifically the terrific work by our division and all of our investigators and staff in our Medicaid fraud division, as well as assistance from the office that is with us today, as well as other state agencies. We know that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Service Office's Inspector General has been very helpful in working with us and going forward. We want to stress that we have a specific Medicaid fraud tip line, and we encourage those who have information that they think would be helpful to contact our office. We are intent on pursuing these cases to make sure that no more taxpayer dollars are wasted or lost, particularly when they would be lining the pockets by way of theft of healthcare providers. Thank you.